Test. Okay. Test. Hello. What's up, David? How you doing? How's our chat coming on? Yeah, I'm alright, mate. Been a bit busy, to be fair, but getting on with life and what have you. Thank you for joining the live, guys. Freemasons. A lot of people talk about Freemasons, and I used to be one of those guys that would be like, oh yeah, you know, Jays and Masons and all this stuff. And I still am a little bit. But, you know, when you deal with the normal authorities and they're just as corrupt as the people who you think are part of like an occult conspiracy, it's like you stop caring about whether or not, you know, about who it is, and just it's more about what they're doing. I guess it matters that they're in positions of power, but I couldn't really care less whether they're part of an occult society or not. Freemasons have people in high places, they can get away with anything. So they say, you know, that's what people tell me. I don't doubt it. Tap the screen to like the live, guys. It does help us. It helps boost us in the algorithm. Helps to fund our documentary, Exposing Corruption in Health and Social Care. Hope everyone can hear me. Had to adjust my audio settings a bit. Can people hear me? Yeah, the audio's been a bit hit and miss sometimes. Let's turn up the test, that's better. Most people who partake in that theory of perfect, the whole... Okay, I mean, everyone that knows me knows what I think about that. But I'm not going to get into it on TikTok Live because I don't want to get banned. How did they unalive my baby? So... medical negligence, basically. But the main issue is a serious cover-up. And it's a completely needless death. Like, you know, tragic, needless death. It's no real condition that couldn't have been easily sorted. It's pure negligence, and then on top of that, criminality and the cover-up and abuse of us for trying to speak out, victimization of, you know, whistleblowers and all the typical things I talk about in the other lives. That's what we went through. So, I need to change the... You see, I'm still getting the hang of this whole live thing. So let me change the topic for the people that are viewing online. Just a moment. NHS and medical negligence cover-ups. There we go. It's recording it. NHS medical negligence cover-up 3. Yeah, we changed that. Jackson says, well, I'm sure they didn't mean to do it. Sure, it was an accident. Okay, but does that mean that they should cover it up, Jackson? Does that mean that they should victimize people who try and expose it, obstruct the coroner, and pretend it didn't happen? Is a cover-up okay because an accident happened? And how do you know that they didn't mean to do it? Were you there? You seem quite confident. You've not heard anything about it. Okay. So, you know, you can look it up online if you want. AC says, yo... Okay. Yo. If you have a legal case, this sort of live streaming posting will harm your claim, just FYI. I don't believe that's the case. But that is a popular belief that people have regarding advocating for themselves. I think it's just a way of scaring people into silence. I don't see how it would harm my case. What have I said that would harm a case? You know. G says, none of these people realize the maternity trust is under criminal investigation. That's a good point. Like, obviously they don't know about the backstory, because why would they? But yeah, there is criminality suspected. So that is relevant. What happened to her? Her lung was collapsed by accident, and then they covered it up, and she died. And they tried to say she died of COVID, but she didn't die of COVID. They just made it up to cover up the series of events that led up to them accidentally killing her. Because what they were trying to do was victimize us for speaking out about negligence on the ward and bullying on the ward. So they were trying to victimize us by getting the authorities involved against us, falsely accusing us, and their activity, which is criminal in my opinion, that criminal activity led to a child's death because they began to neglect my child, and they began to undertake things that they shouldn't have been undertaking, irrespective of the harm it would cause my child and my children. Good evening, Marilyn. How are you doing? 202, the way the system covers up this kind of thing is terrifying. Yeah, because the real criminals are, you know, the people that work in these kind of positions. They have the greatest propensity to commit crime because it's easier to cover up. And we know from studying human behavior that human beings, when they know that they can get away with things, they do more. You know, that's just human nature. So if you're in these people in these kinds of professions, they tend to be able to get away with more. And there's a lot of criminality that goes undetected. Unfortunately, I'm just going to turn up the gain a bit. I hope my audio is not damaged. Boog says, how come you believe Lucy Letby is innocent? I've had a thorough perusal of the facts surrounding the case, the circumstances surrounding the case, and it stands to reason that the conviction is unsafe, and therefore I believe she's not guilty. And it's not any more complicated than that. And any person that has a perusal of the facts of the case themselves, I believe would come to the same conclusion, a proper perusal. Whenabouts was this? This was in 2023. Blame the government. It's not the government's fault. It's the NHS trusts that get away with this kind of behaviour. So if you want to say that they're part of the government, then sure, but they hold the culpability. It's not the culpability is not suspended from them. They are involved in cover-ups. They are involved in criminality, involved in negligence. So we can keep blaming the government, but in reality, it's the NHS Trust that do this because they have significant power. The integrated care boards have significant power. They are able to manipulate the police, manipulate the coroner, because they're all in cahoots, essentially. They work day in, day out with each other. When was this? This was in January 2023, is when the nightmare began. May baby Adaora rest in peace. Thank you, I appreciate that. Did they refer you to PALS first? They referred us to PALS, they referred us to social services. They tried to have us arrested, or have me arrested, simply for speaking out about medical negligence. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. Government paid the NHS. NHS are heavily underpaid. Underpaid nurse equals bad work ethic. You're wrong. And the government technically don't pay the NHS. They pay, well, the Department of Health and Social Care does give money to the integrated care boards, but there's a lot of layers before it gets to the NHS Trust. Maybe 1 or 2 layers, let's say. 2 layers at least, before it gets to the NHS Trust. And it has no bearing on the culture. The culture is due to them being protected by the establishment. That's why there's a culture, a bad work culture. It's nothing to do with how much they get paid. In fact, paying them more would embolden and empower them more to cover up and commit crimes and get away with them. There's a house getting problem with fake staff within the NHS. Yeah, I've heard a lot about this, about the fake staff and the agency. Well, the agency staff seem to be the better ones, but there's a lot of unqualified staff in the NHS. The thing is, even after negligence, the people who deal with such complaints are not underpaid. I don't know why people think they're underpaid. I mean, I kind of do know why people think they're underpaid. It's because the narrative surrounding the NHS in the UK is heavily biased towards them. So it's like people don't realise that the system in and of itself can be flawed without them being underpaid or understaffed. They are understaffed, but they're not underpaid realistically, because when you pay someone, you're supposed to be paying them to provide something, and the service that they're providing is not very good, quite frankly. We have very high rates of medical negligence, even though it's difficult to quantify it, but it's very, very high rates of medical negligence. The waiting list is unliving thousands of people every year. So there's a real problem, and there's a real problem with people like elite strokes who have their head buried in the sand. They think that it's okay for the government to take a large percentage of our wages, a percentage of our and charge us national insurance, and then not provide us a good service. And they think that if you criticize the NHS, that you're a bad person. Serious problem in this country. Flopping Juice says, we are underpaid, lovely. I provide the best for every single patient. Are you an agency nurse? I do believe the nurses are underpaid. I don't believe the doctors and the consultants are underpaid. But I think the nurses are just as underpaid as every other profession, and then they also have quite a good pension. So everybody in the UK, well, a lot of professions in the UK are underpaid. But I do agree that I do think the nurses are underpaid from what I've seen. But I don't think that they're that significantly more underpaid than many other professions. I'm sorry, I'm seeing before I've pursued clinical negligence route. Yeah, we're going through that route. You can always move away. Interesting perspective. How do you, guys, I have a question. How do you fix a problem that people don't want to acknowledge? What's the difference between a nurse and a doctor? What, you mean in terms of why I think a nurse should be paid more? Well, it's a good question if that's what you mean. I think I don't really see how the doctors and consultants provide much more than what the nurses provide. Because it's like, put it like this. Imagine you have a company or a corporation and it's failing, and the employees are being underpaid, and then the senior management are being underpaid. Well, isn't it failing because of the senior management? So it's like, who holds the culpability? because with responsibility should come accountability. So the accountability lies with the people that are the heads of the clinical care, and then the heads in the senior management, and then in governance. That's where the accountability lies, because they're the ones that are responsible for what happens on the ground level. So how can they be being underpaid if they're not performing? Does that make sense? Whereas, so it may look like on paper they're being underpaid, but they're not performing. Whereas the nurses in that, they're performing rudimentary roles such that, you know, there's not much more a nurse can do than a nurse's role. But people that are in positions of power, positions of governance, etc., they can actually affect change, and they're not doing it. So that's why I don't think that they deserve to be rewarded for that. Whereas I think nurses are genuinely underpaid for for the profession that they do and the hours that they put in, etc. And he just confirmed that 13, 12 an hour is okay for 5 years of medical school. So that's another interesting point about the junior doctors. So I don't think, this is my point, is I don't think that a doctor provides as much value as people think that they do. They, like, if you take a nurse's salary and a doctor's salary, should their salaries really be significantly different? Can someone tell me, like, how, if we examine the NHS, how much more value a doctor is providing, and how we quantifying it? Especially the consultants, they seem to have significant leverage, but I don't see what the externalities that we're measuring are to justify them having such leverage. And these people aren't being put in those positions by the public. The people in the NHS who are in positions of power, they're not elected. They're selected by the hierarchy, the power structure. So we're living in a democracy, so-called. They're getting funding from the taxpayer. They're unelected, and they're not providing a good service. Townfall says, if you don't understand the difference in value between a doctor and nurse, well, tell me what it is. I'm happy to be enlightened. Tell me what the difference in value that they're providing is. Like, I'm saying, what can we measure that says a nurse is providing us this much value, and then a doctor's providing us this much. The nurse is saving this many lives, and doctor, like, can you explain what metrics have you seen that suggest to you, and who does the culpability lie with on a mismanaged ward, on an understaffed ward, do you get what I'm saying? It's like you can even look at the Labour theory of, what is it? Value, if that's what it's called? Labour theory of value, whatever it's called. Or value theory of labour. What is it called? Hold on. Labour theory of value, yeah. So the Labour theory of value posits that the value of a good or service is determined by the amount of labour required to produce it. So in many systems, the people that actually uphold the system are the people on the front lines. Does that make sense? So I would like to know what makes people think that doctors are providing significantly more value than those people on the front lines. And you could say, well, they are part of the front lines, but again, what metrics are we measuring? That's what I'm interested to know. They seem to pontificate, wax lyrical, and do a lot of make work. What tangibles are we actually measuring? Flop and Juice says, I partially agree with what you're saying. As a nurse, doctors do a lot more than people think. And how does what they do translate into good outcomes in society, in the public? We know that doctors provide a level of value, but I'm saying significantly more than nurses and other practitioners. What are we measuring to justify that? I think it's more based on historical precedent and classism, that they have a higher class status, so they are venerated more. What I'm describing is a fundamentally different way of us perceiving our healthcare models. Measure it for patient outcomes. Okay, but what? So you're saying there are patient outcomes that tell you that doctors are providing significantly more value than nurses? Or consultants are providing significantly more value than doctors? I mean, they're on maternity leave half the time, most of them. Or many of them. I don't think they're providing as much value as people think. I don't think they're providing as much value as they should. And maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's just how the system's set up. But I think it does need an overhaul. But it's difficult to speak about an overhaul when we can't even get rudimentary things agreed about how we should fund, how we should deal with waiting lists and things like that. And that's why I say, you know, about the head stuck in the sand kind of thing. You have a very linear view to this. Consultants are very different. I wouldn't put them... Well, you can say that, but I've asked you many times to elaborate. You're free to request to come on the live and speak to me. I said I'm willing to be enlightened, but you haven't actually enlightened us. Like, tell us. What metrics? Tell us. How do you know? Or is it just what you heard or what you think? Enlighten us. We got 41 people in the live, guys. Tap the screen to like the live. I can't elaborate through TikTok comments, and right now I'm sat in the staff room at work. Okay. I was gonna say that's ironic, but everyone, everyone's entitled to a break at work. You denied your child care for days because you didn't trust the hospital. It was too late by the time you said okay. Care for what? I think this guy's trying to pretend that he knows what happened in our case. Yeah, this is my half-hour unpaid break. Well, thank you for joining us. It was too late by the time you said okay. Oh, wow. The things people say online. No, you said they were premature. That means the child has organs not fully developed. I guess this guy's trying to defend people that killed my child and covered it up. I don't know why. Maybe you have to ask yourself why your immediate disposition is to defend a system that we know there's a lot of negligence in. Yeah, my kids were premature, but they didn't die when they were premature. So how does your argument adjust for that? That you're trying to argue that they died because they were premature, but they didn't. Have you seen their post-mortem? Have you seen my daughter's post-mortem? Why did my son not die but my daughter die when both of them were premature? Can you explain that, Mr. Yerrick? Incredibly smart individual that you are. Oh, you don't know because you weren't there. So, how did they die? My daughter's right lung was collapsed. The nurses and doctors repeatedly said that the child needed what? What does a doctor do compared to a nurse? Yeah, every child is different. So why did one child, but since you know so much, why did one, they were twins, so why did one pass away but the other one didn't pass away? Can you explain that? Using your theory about somehow it being someone else's fault other than, you know, we all witnessed what happened, so you realise my child's death is being covered up. If it wasn't, if this happened as you said it was, why is it being covered up? Yes, I know they're not biologically the same, but are you arguing that one was less developed than the other? Because that's not true. Okay, anyway. Be careful, they will stalk you and use vehicles to intimidate you. Yeah, I know, they're already doing that. Sometimes people die, doctors are not God. Yeah, I know, and sometimes people get killed, like my daughter. But you want to defend the doctors. We get it. There will always be people who are skeptics. What does a doctor do compared to a nurse? As in, what do they do for work? No, I mean as in what value, how are we measuring the value that they're providing compared to a nurse? I'm not saying they're not providing more, I'm not saying they're not providing less. I'm just saying, how are we measuring the outcomes? Why do you say she was killed? Because she was killed in front of us. Like, it's weird how people can't wrap their head around. Like, if somebody said, if you saw in the news someone's dead and someone was like, this person killed him, you'd be like, oh my God, okay, someone got killed, that's crazy. Then when I tell you the same thing about my child, you're like, oh no, something else must have happened. It's like, no, she got killed, everybody saw it, she got killed in front of us, they covered it up. Like, they admitted what happened. They said they were going to investigate it. And then when we left the ward, they removed all the medical notes, didn't do an investigation, and told the coroner that she had COVID. That's fraud. That's a cover-up. Like, if 10 people see, oh my God, we've just collapsed this child's lung, they admit it, we just collapsed your daughter's lung, we're going to investigate it. The post-mortem says this child died because of her right lung getting collapsed. Her lung got collapsed because she got put on the ventilator when she didn't need it. And she got put on the ventilator using the wrong size tube and the wrong length tube. And they said in the notes, wrong size tube, wrong length tube. That's called killing someone, especially if you cover it up. Now, if they said, look, this is what happened, and they explain, well, no, this actually happened for a different reason, then fair enough. But they didn't do that. They've covered it up. They've deleted the notes and then pretended she died of something else. So if she didn't die of what we all witnessed, why did they delete the notes and cover it up? Can you explain that, genius? I'm worried about your safety. They'll target you for speaking out. Yeah, you know, I'm used to it. I'm not scared of them. They're already targeting us. It's fine. What are your plans? Are you going to take this to court? Yep. Yeah, because the lung was smaller than initially thought because you denied care for days. What are you talking about, bro? What a strange person. Strange person. Denied care for days. I don't know. Let's just block you because you're trying to derail the conversation. So let's... What is this guy talking about? She was put on a ventilator because she had something called pulmonary hypertension, which she developed after being left for 3 months without the scan that she was supposed to have and over-oxygenated for 3 months straight. And I've actually found that the hospital has the wrong oxygen guidelines. Their oxygen guidelines are not in line with the national guidelines. I noticed this on the ward. I told them about it. They fabricated notes saying that I didn't want my kids to have oxygen. And it turns out I was right. I've actually found their guidelines 2 days ago. And I was actually right. Their guidelines are out of line with national guidelines. Out of line with the study that they themselves use to determine the oxygen levels for neonates. I was right the entire time. Their guidelines are out of whack. Their ventilation guidelines were wrong. That's why they admitted their ventilation guidelines were wrong earlier this year. And they updated them. Did you find the guidelines are nice? I found them in my daughter's medical notes. It specifically says that they wanted that they remove the upper limit for oxygen. And so they leave the children on like 100 oxygen over and over again for months and months and months, believing that that's what you're supposed to target. And the boost study itself doesn't indicate to target higher than 95. And when I told them this, they said, oh, I don't want my children to have oxygen because I was saying I don't think that you're supposed to target 100. And I'm obviously right. I'm right. Like, it's in the British Thoracic Society guidelines. It's in the... what's the other guideline? I've got it documented. I've got them all documented. It's in their guidelines are wrong. And I've told the maternity review about this as well. What have you done about this already? I've done everything you can do. It's a cover-up. It involves the police, numerous agencies. This is actually probably one of the worst cover-ups in NHS history. But I can't get into all the details of it because people were skeptical, and when you speak about things, they don't believe. I mean, I can understand why someone wouldn't believe our case. It's very hard to believe the level of victimization that we suffered, and it's hard to believe that this many people would lie. But such is life. Someone said target is between 95 and 100. Usually wouldn't oxygenate past 95. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's how you get a child. That's how a child can develop pulmonary hypertension if you leave them oxygenating at 100 for literally 3 months and don't do an ECG scan and write in the notes 12 times that this child needs an ECG scan and query the fact that the way that she's being oxygenated is causing her distress, and you don't do anything about it for 12 months, and you specifically write in the notes awaiting social services input, not doing the discharge scan, which is the scan that she needs. So how can you deny a child clinical care because you're trying to take the child from their parents, and you're trying to take the child from their parents because the parents are saying that you guys are wrong about something, and the parent is right about what you're wrong about, but then you document that the parent is interfering, but the parent is correct, and then you fabricate notes against the parent and have the parent arrested for telling the truth about what happened. Like, bizarre behaviour from Nottingham University Hospitals Trust. It's weird to me as well how, like, these people, they've just killed a child, and then they're just going on like nothing happened. Oh, I'm a good guy. Give us more money. It's like, have you no shame? Like, you're going to pretend that you didn't kill my child and that I'm just mad for no reason. Oh, I just woke up and decided I don't want a career in medical sales anymore. I don't want peace of mind. What I want to do is talk about dead children all day. Like, really? These people, I think there's something wrong with them. Thank you for the flowers, appreciate it. Those flowers for baby Dora. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with these people. There's definitely a level of psychopathy involved. And I think maybe now I've thought about this a lot, as you can tell. But I think that has anybody heard of the Stanford prison experiment? Where you put people as prison guards and then you put people as prisoners, and then eventually they begin to start mistreating the prisoners even though it's an experiment. That's how it is on the wards. So I don't even know if they're aware of how much they abuse people, because they're so used to it that they seem to think like, I don't really understand what the psychology is behind it. I definitely think that the fact that they lock you on the ward has something to do with it, because I notice a psychological effect on myself from being locked on the ward. Like, as in, you have to buzz to get out, but psychologically knowing that you can't leave without their say so, and then being abused, it does something to you psychologically. It feels like you're in prison. So yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between what I experienced and the Stanford prison experiment. Copacabana says, as a nurse, abuse is literally a daily thing in every shift I'm leaving nursing. It's daily. And it's weird because most people, I don't think that they ever would experience the level of abuse that you experience on an NHS ward. So that's why when you talk about it, no one believes that it's possible. Because they're like, if this is happening, why isn't anyone speaking about it? And it's because it's a criminal mafia, you understand? So the criminal mafia protects itself. Of course. That's how all mafias function. You can talk about a mafia and anything. If I started to go on live talking about the McDonald's mafia, people would be more likely to believe than when I talk about the mafias in the NHS. I mean, I just watched a video of a whistleblower nurse on here the other day, and she said that when she whistleblew, the CEO of her trust said to her, yeah, you don't want to whistleblow. Whistleblowers have a way of ending up missing. That's what she got told. Whistleblowers have a way of ending up missing. Imagine that level of threat. When I was on the ward, a nurse literally looked me dead in the face and said, loads of people want to strangle you. For literally doing nothing. Like, for making complaints about my daughter's care, and then my daughter ended up actually dying, so I was correct. And they're like, loads of people want to strangle you. So you're making a threat on my life because I'm raising concerns of medical negligence? You're trying to have my children medically kidnapped because I complained about you? Like, this is where it's weird. It's like, you can talk about negligence, and then it's like, what kind of person has the mindset of you being criticized makes you want to stop someone being able to have their newborn children with them? Like, bizarre behavior. And when you observe, obviously I was there, so I'm observing the behavior and I can see the cowardice. Like, I'm not talking about they're looking at me like they're whispering, oh my gosh, how are you covering this? I've literally watched nurses on the ward talking to each other about how they're gonna document an event. Like, oh, what are you gonna say? Like, let's say this, let's say that. Like, they're not even hiding what they're doing. That's why it's funny, like, when people doubt what I'm saying, because I'm like, I don't think you realize that they're not even hiding what they're doing. Like, I sent an email to them that, like, being like, you guys, why has there been no child death review for my child? And they're like, responded, Miss Madawaka, there'll be no child death review. Then I'm like, you realize you have a statutory duty to do a child death review. And then they're just like, we will respond about this shortly. I'm like, you will respond about doing your statutory duty shortly? They're only responding because I told them I'm going to judicial review it. I'm like, oh, okay, do you want to go to court and have this judicial reviewed? And I'm like, they're not even hiding that it's a cover-up. You realize I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and not once, like, they could easily sue me. Like, they know where I live. They know everything about me. Like, there's a court order on me. Why don't they want to sue me? Has anyone thought about that? Why have they not really, like, tried to say, okay, this is defamatory and stuff? Because they don't even want it to go to court. They tried to make us settle out of court for a bereavement award. I'm like, guys, I know I'm black, but come on. I know you can't you can't think that, you know, lowly of me with your xenophobia, that you actually think I'm that stupid that that I can't see that we have a very strong case against you. You can complain to CQC. CQC are complicit in the cover-up. Stephen Paisley at CQC, he has been briefed by the senior people in the trust, and he has clearly, and I've seen it in his eyes, and I have a full recording of me asking him questions, and he was left speechless, because I explained to him that it's irrefutable that the duty of candor has been breached because they collapsed my daughter's lung and didn't tell me about it. And then they later collapsed her lung again in the same place and killed her. And I'm like, how is them doing that and that event manifesting on the post-mortem as a cause of death? How is that not a breach of the duty of candor if they didn't tell us when they collapsed my daughter's lung in the first place? And he's like, he literally sat there like this. Then he's like, just send it to me in an email. I send him an email, he doesn't reply. They're not hiding that they're covering this up, guys. They're not hiding it. They just believe that I'm not powerful enough to do anything about it. They believe that they can bully and harm my family until I give up or I commit suicide. Unfortunately, this is the reality, is that they do actually want people to unalive themselves. That is part of, you know, the abuse, is eventually people will unalive themselves, or they'll stop, or they'll do something that renders them liable for criminal conviction. As they're trying to do to me, they're trying to criminally convict me. Do you think Donna Ockenden is involved in the cover-up? That's an interesting question. Now, I have seen things that suggest to me that I won't accuse her, because I know Donna. I've spoken to her many times and I've met her many times, and she's never done anything bad to me. But I have seen things that suggest to me that her impartiality can have a negative effect on the pursuit of justice. In other words, she's impartial and she balances between us and the trust, the families and the trust. And I believe that can potentially harm the investigations against the trust, because she builds relationships with people who are covering up children's deaths. And I think that the police should be looking at them how they look at criminals, not how they look at hospitals. They have to, if you're doing a criminal investigation, you can't be sat down in the meeting with the person that you're potentially going to criminally prosecute and be saying to them, you know, this is what we're going to do. That's what they're doing. We get briefed on what's happening with the police investigation, and they literally sit around. They tell us before every meeting. They say, "Yep, that we've just sat down with the trust," and we tell them what. So they're not actually investigating the trust the way that they would investigate a normal criminal. They're telling them this is what we're doing. They're telling, and a reason I have some evidence I have that this is part of the. Could potentially be negative for the pursuit of justice, is that, for example, the trust changed the criteria of what would be considered a death that should be part of the maternity review, and Donna's team knew about this and they got told about this, and the coroner and Donna's team then queried to the trust, why are your numbers different from the numbers that we have? And they found out that the trust actually had changed the definition of what would be considered a maternity death. Now, imagine I'm being investigated for a crime, and the crime is fraud, and then they're saying, right, on your books, we believe that you've been misrepresenting your income to, tax fraud. You've been misrepresenting your income to claim higher amounts of tax rebate or whatever. Yeah, if I go into my records and change my records so that it looks like I didn't do that, that will be considered perverting the course of justice. Now, I brought this up to Donna. I brought this up in front of Donna and all the people in the public eye, in the police meeting. I said, that is perverting the course of justice. That is criminal behavior. And when I said this, I saw that everybody became suspended, and they said, but then they kind of brushed over it. It's almost like they don't want to see them as criminals because they don't look how they believe criminals should look. And that's the privilege of the mafia, is that the mafia can present themselves as if they are just members of the community. That's what makes them so pernicious, and that's why I describe them as a mafia, because they're able to present as normal members of society, normal everyday working people, and they're actually a criminal mafia. How do I know they're a criminal mafia? Because they engage in organised crime, organised fraud, organised obstruction of the coroner, organised, conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Any way you slice or dice it. And I think that the negligence also meets a criminal standard. When you're talking about your guidelines are not even in line with what they're supposed to be nationally, someone tells you this, and then you report them to social services and try and take their children off them. I think that meets the threshold for criminal negligence. Ellie says, duty of candor until nobody wants to take responsibility for huge consequences. Yeah. They've thrown me under the bus. They say, let's let the black guy suffer and let him, let his mental health be damaged, and then we'll be able to come up with an excuse as to why he was really the bad guy. Look at him. When you turn into Valdo Calacane or Axel Rudy Cabana, then they say, ha ha ha, see? They were crazy. Look at them crazy. The crazy so-and-so. He was always like that. That's just in his nature. He's just a wrong and absolute wrong. And that's what they do. They drive people to the point of insanity. Not me, though, unfortunately. I'm quite mentally sound. Kobe Cabana says, the funny thing is, as a father, you had no clinical responsibility. They're saying that because I said, I think the SATS probe isn't working, can we get a new one? That means I didn't have faith in the equipment, and suggests that I will not seek medical treatment for my children when we leave the ward. And I have multiple videos of the saturation probes not working. They changed the saturation probes while we were on the ward because they were not working. And then they admitted to me that the saturation probes were not working, and that's why they changed them. And then they still put it forward as a safeguarding issue, saying that me questioning them raises safeguarding issues, even though I identified that they weren't working, and the staff also identified that they weren't working and changed them. Every single allegation against me is the same thing. It's me being smarter than them, or not even smarter. It's me realizing something before them because they lack continuity of care, so they can't keep up with stuff as quickly as a parent that's switched on would. They can't keep up with it because we're there every day going, I remember what happened 2 days ago. Let me tell you what happened. And they're like, who do you think you are? Why should we listen to you? And I'm like, you just got on the ward. I'm telling you that this issue is something that has been passed down from multiple iterations of staff coming on the ward, and you're not listening to me. Then they're just looking at the notes and seeing that it says safeguarding issues, and they're like, whispering to their friend, what's safeguarding issues about? Oh, he doesn't want his kids to have care. So then they're like, oh, he's telling us that the probes don't work because he doesn't want his kids to have a probe. Then they're like, Dad doesn't want the kids to have a probe. No, fool, listen. You know what I mean? And race plays a part in it. Misandry, that's a big one that no one wants to talk about. Misandry plays a part of it. There's not a more misandrist environment than a neonatal ward. I can tell you that right now. A maternity ward and neonatal ward. First of all, they don't even consider that you have the same rights as the mother, which some might argue is reasonable considering the mother is a birth giver. But I mean, they treat you like it. Like, they'll tell you, in the prenatal appointments, go stand over there, don't come in the room. Like, pure misandry. GitHub man says, can you tell us again what happened? I'm sorry, but I'm interested in what happened, brother. That's all right. So basically, my daughter, I mean, you can look up my story on the page. The story's on our page. The story's online. Have you thought of asking a private healthcare company what they would do in this situation? Well, medical negligence happens in private and public healthcare. So advocating for private healthcare is not to say that there will be less medical negligence. It just may be that there may be more accountability. It may be that that there's less waiting list deaths. It may be that certain other issues can be solved, like the wage issue that people talk about. I don't know if the staffing issue would be solved by that. But again, I'm not an advocate for a totally private NHS. So, private hospital or not, I still think that people should get people with chronic conditions should get totally subsidized healthcare. But I don't see how that pertains to medical negligence as a concept or as a thing. Helen says there's less protection in private care, no neonatal private service. That's another problem, is that there's no options for neonatal care in private hospitals. And it would be quite expensive, I do concede that. This doesn't surprise me. When I had my baby, they nearly unalived us both and covered it up. Yeah. Everybody knows they cover up, you know. It's just, what can you really do about it? I think that's the question, is what can we do about it? Just Joanne, can you quickly summarize? Yeah, they collapsed my daughter's lung and covered it up, pretended it was COVID. While she was in critical condition, they accidentally put her machine settings wrong. She desaturated to 0 and died 2 days later. They covered up all of those events and said that she died of COVID, and she didn't. So she wasn't COVID positive, and her COVID test has been queried by the lab because it came from a machine that she wasn't on, and there's no record of it being received by the lab. So there's a lot of really suspicious stuff in our case. Stuff that, you know, the stuff of nightmares. And that's why every time I tell the story, you notice I tell different parts of the story, because there's actually so much to it that these people have done. I could even get into the bullying and the harassment against us, but, you know, that narrative is aside, because the most pertinent thing is to get justice for my daughter. Did they know she had a collapsed lung? What caused it? Improper ventilation, use of the wrong size tube, unnecessary escalations. Like, they escalated to a ventilator because they split my daughter's top of her ear in almost in half, and they split her ear in half because when I was telling them that the mask needs to be adjusted, they were ignoring me and not listening to me, and saying that I was being aggressive for telling them that they were putting the mask on wrong. I came in 2 days later, she had 2 black eyes from the mask being wrong. I calmly said to them, guys, I've been telling you this, can you please listen to me? They didn't listen, did it again and split her ear open. Then they said, oh, because her ear's been split open, she can't wear the mask, we need to put her on the ventilator. Put her on the ventilator and collapsed her lung, and then covered it up. And then they write in the notes none of that and write dad being aggressive. And I'm saying it just how I'm telling you guys, calmly, respectfully, but they don't like being corrected even when they're wrong. Cobra Kawan says, when you walk into hospital with your baby, they assume ownership of your child is crazy. Yeah, and then they treat you like you're crazy for bringing up issues. And it's like everything you say, they frame it as though it's bad. It's like, why would I want... Well, if I didn't want to care for... You know, there's a lot of guys that don't want to care for their kids. I won't say a lot, but there's guys that don't want to care for their kids. And those guys don't show up to the neonatal ward every day. Like, those guys don't sit there during ward round when they've got work from home, sit there during the ward round, call up every day and get the... what are those pictures that they send? To get the pictures sent, ask for an update, regularly ask for consultant meetings. The people that don't care for their children, they don't do those things. They don't spend 3 years like studying law, medical law, computer science, and all these things that enable me to do a robust investigation and forensic investigation into my daughter's care. They don't sit there and analyze 4,000 notes. They don't regularly go to maternity review meetings, police meetings. They don't do that. So, like, what are we talking about safeguarding, guys? Like these people are criminals. That's the long and short of it. And I think the sad reality, and I'm going to say this, actually I'm not going to say it because I'll get banned, but I'll just say I do believe that their race and gender plays a part as to why people don't think that they're criminals. Unfortunately, that's just a reality. It's just a reality. It's just a reality. I'm sorry to say it, guys. I don't mean to offend anyone, but the demographic of people that are doing this and getting away with it, there's a reason why people don't think that they're criminals. I'm not saying that they're bad because they're that. I'm just saying there's a reason why people are less likely to perceive them as criminals. Nikki says, been a while, how you been? I've been. I can just say, I've been something. I see you on here every week and every time you got a clickbait background. Respect the grind. Okay. I know your life is pretty uneventful, I guess, mate, but my life is not uneventful, for better or worse. I'm in the field. I want the smoke. And you're just like a non-factor. Because you're not like, you don't have fortitude, Howard. You don't have like strength of character. So just sit back where you're sitting and, you know, go to your 9 to 5 or something, man. And that's not to knock people that, you know, do that. But I'm just saying, like, you're not a fighter. I'm a fighter. So just type away. It's cool. People like you can't fight the system. You don't have what it takes. Just reality. You don't have what it takes. That's why, like, because if I saw someone that was doing this, I'd be like, oh, like, that's, he's one of us. That's respects, like, a fighter. But you see people like me and you feel insecure because you're like, oh my gosh, why do I feel this feeling when this person speaks? It's called strength of character. Is your son still in care, or did they give him back? No. So we won in court, so they didn't even take him into care or nothing. They tried to, but when I said to them, oh, I'm releasing all my recordings, then they withdrew from the case because they didn't want those recordings to be presented in front of the High Court. Because that's when, and that's really the sad reality of it, is our lawyers, the Guardian, the council, the police, and the hospital, they deliberately didn't want those things presented in court. And that just shows you, that just says it all. You're telling me I'm a safeguarding risk. Okay, let's go. I'm like, yeah, let's go to the case. I got my chronology. I got my recordings. I said to the district judge, yeah, mate, I've got these recordings. Can I present them in court? He says to me, yeah, provide a schedule of the recordings that you want to present in court. I said, perfect. I provided a schedule. As soon as I provide my schedule, the tone changes. Oh, actually, there's no threshold anymore. So why... If I'm the safeguarding issue, let's have a police investigation, guys. Why don't we do the police investigation against me, yeah, and investigate all the claims that you made against me so that you can look at all the evidence and hear all the recordings? Should we do that? Oh, you don't want to hear my recordings. Oh, the police don't want to hear my recordings. I wonder why. I wonder why they don't want to hear my recordings. Fluffy Ginger says, I fully believe NHS and social workers try to split families up. I mean, yeah, it's part of their agenda. It's part of their agenda. But people don't, people can't fathom. And I don't blame people that can't fathom this, because some people can't fathom it because they are ignorant. But some people can't fathom it because they can't fathom that level of darkness in the world. And I don't think that the people that think like that are bad, because they may just be good-hearted people that can't fathom that people do things like this. But unfortunately, guys, child trafficking is a real thing. It's a real thing, guys. It's a sad reality of life. Unfortunately, there are people that they genuinely will take a child's life and they won't care. That's just the sad reality. Fluffy Ginger says, I got to go, but I really hope you keep going. Yeah, of course we're going to keep going. It's possible that I'll be imprisoned over these matters. If that's the case, then that's the case. That's what they do, And then we go from there. But we can't give up in life. We only got one life to live. Fluffy Ginger says, won't bring your little one back, but may save another child. The crazy thing is, there's something that... there's actually another child that passed away in a very similar way to my daughter. And I addressed the protocol, the ventilation protocols. It's called the ventilation pathway for neonates. I addressed that to the hospital and I said that they're not following it properly. And then in 6 months after my daughter died, they killed another baby the same way. That baby got an inquest, and they found at inquest that the hospital were not following the ventilation protocols. I told them that they weren't following the ventilation protocols properly in August 2023. They didn't listen to me. They later had me arrested. They've killed another child, and then they've admitted at inquest this year that they weren't following the ventilation protocols. So if they had listened to me, another child would actually still be alive, which is a crazy thing to say, and it sounds extremely arrogant, but it's actually the truth. It's actually the sad truth. Okay, what are we saying? It's 9:25, and I'm on live, and I've had a long, busy week. I did an exam. I've done some orders. I've been on my grind. So I might wrap it up. We didn't have that busy of a live, but at least we're live. We're going live. Consistency is key. Henry's 401. I'm sorry to tell you about your loss. Man, that's messed up. Don't let them get away with it. Well, I'm up against a mafia. Like I say, I'm up against the police, the council, the hospital, the coroner's office. Who else am I up against? The CQC, potentially the GMC. I'm yet to see what the GMC and NMC are going to do. but it's pretty much me against the world. Like my girl as well, but like, you know, childcare is a burden for a mother when you've got babies that are breastfeeding. So it's essentially me against all of these people. So I think it's actually interesting the fight I've been able to put up, not to blow my own, blow smoke up my own, but I think it's commendable, if I say so myself, the fight I've actually managed to put up essentially on my own. Thank you, Kobo Kaban, I appreciate that. I don't think that many people could put up this level of fight that I've put up. I just don't. I've seen a lot of people in the same position as me. And there are other families that have put up this fight, don't get it twisted. I know many other families that have put up a great fight, had Supreme Court judgments and CQC prosecutions and really adept, intuitive parents that have really done their research, done their homework. I know many of them on a first name basis, and a shout out to them, commendable people. But I'm not gonna not pat myself on the back, only because it's literally me against all these organizations, and I need to have a sense of strength in order to carry on. So if nobody's gonna pat me on the back, I'll pat myself and say, well done, Emma, you're doing a good job advocating for baby Adaora, because nobody else is doing it, not my family, it's just me against the world. Okay, Callum Langston, you have a new debate every day. Like, I know, it's almost like I've got a TikTok platform. Marion says you're definitely not alone. I appreciate that. But it's I mean, let's face the facts. Who's potentially going to prison? Me. Who's got a stalking protection order against them? Me. Who's been arrested 3 times over these events? Me. Whose child's death's being covered up? Mine. Who can't get an inquest? My family. Well, mine and my child's death's being covered up. Can't get an inquest. Can't get a child death review. Can't get a statutory child safeguarding practice review. Because the people that are responsible for deciding whether the review happens, Emma North, some other people who I can't name because of the court order, they are the people that were involved in my daughter's care. They caused Adora's death. They know they caused Adora's death, but they're just cowards. But then would the average person admit to something like, who would... I wonder, let's play devil's advocate. If you accidentally cause a child's death, would somebody really admit to that? I don't know. Or they even take accountability for it. Maybe they would try and pretend that their actions didn't actually do that, and that, the father's deluded. But how would they know if they refuse to do a child death review? That's the question. I don't know. Oh my gosh, Friday night. They fabricate information on you, but by exposing them, their hands are tired. Yeah, I think, I don't know what you meant by their hands tied, but I actually do feel that they have no choice but to cover it up. Because what they did in the first place was so heinous, that now, if they don't cover it up, they'll go to prison. So it's an unfortunate predicament they've put themselves in. I did warn them about this, and I said that this is going to escalate to a point that you guys, don't realise how serious it's going to be. And it's not going to stop. I mean, we're just getting started. It's not even gone to court yet. So I guess all these people think that they're going to brush it under the rug. I mean, that's pretty optimistic. So I'm 28 and I'm not going to stop. So if you don't, if you put me in prison, what are you going to get? A year, 2 years out of me? And I'll be back in the streets. What are you going to do? Keep putting me in prison? You got a lot on your hands, Nottingham, and then the mental toll it's even going to take on you covering up a child's death. That's going to be difficult mentally for you. While you've got the cortisol levels of being a doctor or a nurse, I can see how you can ride on that stress level for even years and not feel the actual pressure or not feel the consequences of your actions. But the chickens will come home to roost. When you're old and grey or you suffer some kind of condition or illness, when you're vulnerable, then it's all going to start flooding back to you. You're going to start seeing Adora's face. Yeah, it's like that in life, When all is said and done, my conscience is clear and your conscience is not. That's the difference. That's the difference. I wonder how much can your conscience withstand, especially when the facts of the case come out, because that's going to be an affidavit of truth. That's public information, so everyone's going to know your names, everyone's going to know where you work, and then the Supreme Court judgment, they've just said that we're allowed to name you. So once I beat this stalking protection order, I'm going to name all of you. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do when everyone knows who you are? Nottingham. What are you going to do? These are the things I think about anyway. You know, I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. I could be talking to Nottingham Trent Football Club. No, I'm talking to Nottingham Trent Football Club. Yeah, I'm talking to Nottingham Trent Football Club, guys. Nottingham Trent Football Club. What's up, Zen? Right, you know, let me call it a day, call it a weekend, man. I really put in a lot of good work this week, so pat myself on the back, innit? Peace, everyone. Marilyn says these people are soulless. Hey, we got, you know, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it, Doc. Oh, Mo said my best friend had a baby at City the other day. I went to visit, but had a flashback and panic attack. It was hard. NHS nurses ended my mum's life and got away with doing it. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm banned from NUH because I cried when they killed my daughter in front of me, making me a risk to staff, okay? Hey, did you take them to court? We had taken them to court. The court proceedings are imminent. I mean, we could launch the case now, but I just want to make sure every single one of them has all of the actions that they've undertaken on public record. Even if we don't win the case, the affidavit will be there forever. I'm going to get it notarized. I'm going to get it framed. I'm going to write a book. So the book will be out. I'll just change everyone's names and release the book, and then I'll do the public affidavit so people will easily be able to see who's who. So get ready for that. Adaora Story. The book is coming out. Probably 2 years or whatever. Give me 2 years, I'll have a book, and that's going to have my poems in it as well. So it's going to have my poems, Adaora Story, anything that happens in the aftermath. We've got the documentary. Am I going to the meeting workshop? I don't think so. Like, Charma was telling me about it, but like, I don't know. Oh, Nottingham County Council unalived your father. I'm sorry to hear that. Is that Nottingham County Council? Damn. Please message me, actually, because we could do an interview for Elephant in the Room. That's the documentary project that we're working on. Oh, actually, we've just set up. We just had the chair built today. Thank you, Alexia, for building the chair. So we just had the chair built. So now we just put the camera setups. But yeah, okay, Famida, message me and we'll arrange an interview. The first person I'm interviewing is Mike from Carers on Competence. I'll probably do that interview this month. So we interview Mike because Mike's, you know, the big dog. My Jesse, I'm sorry I lost the baby to you. I understand. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? May your angel baby rest in peace. Famida, is Carers on Competence on here? Carers on Competence is on Facebook, and I think he's got an Instagram too. But it's run by someone called Mike Mazzaris. They unalived his wife and then they covered it up, tried to frame him, arrested him for stalking, banned him from the hospital. They did the same tactics on him to me. So we know that they do the same tactics to different parents. No, I mean the interview. So the interview is going to be on YouTube, and then it'll be chopped up and it'll form part of the documentary that we film as well. So if you're comfortable, you come, we do the interview. If you're not, I can come to you, or we can do it online or whatever, however you want to do it. But we want to get everyone's stories documented. And it's not just you, I can tell you that. Right. Thank you, guys. Now I'm really going to peace and deuces. Thanks for everyone's support, as usual. Right, guys. So, yeah, that was just a quick hour. Thank you for everyone that joins us when we go live, etc. If you want to know more about Adaora Story, the link tree is in my bio. It will be on my Facebook bio shortly. To YouTube, if this is your first time watching, thank you for watching and joining me. If you want to know more about my Adaora Story, we're in the ITV documentary Maternity Broken Trust. and maternity broken trust, and we're in the news as well. If you search Adaora Nottingham, you'll see what happened to my daughter, or what we allege happened to my daughter, what did happen to my daughter. But yeah, okay, thanks guys.